What's up, Twitter? This is Jim Heil, and I'm going to do a tutorial on how to make things like this. This is a really cool motion graphic that was generated from a piece of user-generated content, something that one of you creators made. I don't remember who actually took this shot. I apologize for that. But so we're going to start with a still image, and we're going to create something like this. So that's what the tutorial is going to be. And the way this is going to work is I'm going to post the first 2 minutes and 20 seconds of this video on Twitter. And that'll be kind of the trailer, I guess. And if you're still into it, you can follow the link that's on this post and watch the entire tutorial. So I hope you stick with me, and I hope you go there and watch it. I think this will be a lot of fun. So first things first, this might surprise you. The whole thing is done in an app. There's a lot of interesting high-end compositing tools out there. After Effects, Sony Vegas Final Cut. These are all like pro-level tools. And I think what's really interesting about this is that it creates really cool content and it's really accessible, right? So at work, we call this the democratization of creativity. It's kind of a complicated way of saying getting tools in the hands of creators as easily and quickly and as cheaply as possible. That's what that means. And it's something that's really important to me. If you follow my Twitter, you probably realize that by now. So that's why I think this is so interesting. And it's actually really fun to use also. But I really like what it represents and kind of this larger movement of pro tools becoming available to really everybody. So what we're looking for is this thing called Pixaloop. So I guess I'll go to the App Store. It's this top right hand thing. It says in light Pixaloop. And I have no relationship with this company. I don't know anything about them. I just happened to find this app and really just had a blast taking some of your content creator screenshots, all from the community, and making these motion graphics out of them. So I haven't done this with any EA content. This has all been your screenshots. So with that in mind, the screenshot that we're going to play with today is one here I found on Flickr, and I guess that would be pronounced Supermex. It's not quite spelled the right way, but Supermex 11. This guy takes really, really great screenshots. I haven't really had a chance to really talk to him on Twitter, but I sure use a lot of his content. I really, really love what he creates. And this is entitled Battlefield 1 Apocalypse. So that's the credit for the photo, and I want to really give credit because a big reason this looks so good is because of what we're starting with, right? The little bit of the motion and stuff we're adding is wouldn't be anything without a really awesome piece of content. So I already have the app here, so I'm just going to click open, and yeah. So my example here is still running. This is not the one we're going to play with. We're going to click new project. Sorry, I should have done that a lot slower. So when you open it for the first time, you're going to see a button up here that says new project, and you'll probably have a stock image of a waterfall or something like that. And basically when you hit new project, you're going to just choose the photograph. This is your photo roll, and he's there. Yeah. So this just simply imports the still image, and nothing more complicated than that. There's a bunch of controls on here that we're not going to get into. Part of the reason is they don't contribute to this particular piece that we're making here, and part of it is because I don't think all of them are really that interesting. So I'm really only going to show you the controls that we need to get this one example done. And maybe if we do a different tutorial Some other time we might get into some of the other features. But for today, we're going to start with this far left button called animate. And I fully encourage you to take this exact image and load it up in the app and do this along with me. I think that would be the most fun way to do the tutorial. That's the way I would do it if I were you. So you're going to click this button that says animate, and that's going to change the icons that you have down here at the bottom. And the two that are the most interesting right now are the far two on the right that say freeze and unfreeze. Right now, everything is basically unfrozen, meaning all the pixels are unfrozen. And let me just really quickly show you what that means. If I click the path tool and I draw an arrow and I hit play, which is the play button is a little bit hard to see. It's on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and a little play triangle. So if I hit play, you can see that this arrow is causing movement on the entire screen. So what we're going to do is mask all the foreground elements. So basically this guy, and prevent him from moving while we add a whole bunch of movement to the fire and the embers in the background. So that's what we're going to be doing. And I might as well tell you this now. If you have an arrow that you don't want on the screen anymore, you click the middle icon that says remove. That's a little trash can. And I actually double clicked it, which is a really fast way to delete all your arrows. So that got rid of that. Now, to mask the pixels that we don't want to move, that's called freezing them. So the little snowflake icon. And I've done this a whole lot, so I'm just going to tell you the fastest way to do this is to take your finger and just, it's okay if you're messy. It's okay if you go outside the lines. Just get the whole foreground piece covered. Okay, so now pinch and zoom works. And so we're going to kind of like check around and make sure that we got, see, right here, I don't know if you can see that, there's a little bit of his helmet that I actually didn't get masked. So I'm going to cover that up. See there? And one thing that's a little bit of a drawback with this program is that the masking color, this light tan, sometimes happens to be the color of the thing that you're trying to mask. Like this guy has a lot of brown, uniform on him and stuff. And a nice improvement would be is if the mask was choosable, like color or pattern, a zebra pattern or checkerboard. It could be a lot of different things. Anything other than a solid color that's similar to what you're trying to mask. It makes it difficult. So now we're going to do some detail work. And for me, this is like super fun. I kind of OCD about this. And when I'm just like sitting or waiting somewhere, I really enjoy this. You basically take your rough kind of mask now and click the unfreeze button down here and just basically start working the edges. And don't try to get pixel perfect right up to the edge of the guy. There's actually a few reasons for that, and it's not I'm not just trying to calm your OCD down. It actually doesn't produce a good final visual result. And if we see an example of that, I'll actually show it to you. But this is pretty much how you want to see it. You want to see like close, but not actually like revealing anything. So like if I dipped in a little bit like that on his chin, and I realize that's a little hard to see, but that's going to create problems when we add the movement. So I'm going to click freeze and just kind of repair that, put that back. So right now we're just using these two buttons, freeze and unfreeze. If you accidentally go too dig into the guy, then just switch over to freeze and draw it back. So what we're going to end up with in the end is a really nice masked out version of him. And I'm just going to speed through the left side of him now. This is kind of what you want to see in the end. You want to see your foreground guy masked all the way out. And a little trick here is that you can unclick the whatever you have selected. If I have freeze selected, I can unclick freeze. And the same thing, if I have unfreeze selected, I can unselect it. I didn't realize this for a long time, and it was really frustrating me. So I didn't know how to make the mask go away. But so if you just click the button again, it'll go away. But this is basically what you want to see. It's not perfect, and it doesn't need to be. So this kind of an outline, it's rough in a few places. All right, so it looks good to me. The way I'm going to check it is I'm going to click the path tool, the one we played with very briefly at the beginning. And I'm just going to add an arrow on both sides of the screen, just so we just get a complete picture of what's happening. And then I'm going to hit the play button, which is on the bottom right here. Sorry about this. And what we want to see is that we got a good mask. And that looks really good. Yep. So this is what you should see if you're following along. You should see now the background moving with him being really clean. Ooh. I just realized there's a tiny little bit of his helmet sticking out here. Get that little bit. So I'm going to take this opportunity to show you what happens if you kind of over mask. So if you miss something or like kind of dug into the helmet like that a little bit. So if you had something like that on your mask, this is what's going to happen when you put it in motion. Sorry, accident came unpaused. You're going to get that kind of artifact. And it doesn't take much. I'm pretty exaggerated here, but really just a few pixels. If you miss your mask by a few pixels, it'll do these weird kind of ghosting artifacts off your guy in the foreground. So that's why I'm a little kind of overdo it on the masking and don't try to get it exactly pixel perfect, because if it's right on the line, you'll get a bleed. Okay, so now I want to go back to the path icon, which is this far left icon. And, we're going to go to remove the trash can. And, this is a little bit non-intuitive, but I had to go to the path icon first to get my arrows visible. So like if we were on a mask like this, and we want to start deleting arrows, first we need to click path, which is that far left icon, then click the trash can in the middle. And now I can just individually click on these arrows one by one to turn them off. And so now we're actually going to work on fire movement. And fire is just really easy to do. And basically, it goes up and it goes in squiggles, and there might be wind. I kind of like the idea of it going behind him and then kind of coming out on this side. I think that's cool. There's a little fire happening here on the left side. So as you can see, these arrows are kind of regional. They haven't quite figured out exactly how they work, but they operate in the area of the screen where you draw them. Okay, so I think this is looking pretty cool. I like how we have some what looks like wind, happening to our embers there and stuff. What I don't like is this thing, which I recognize now to be like a stump or something in the background. And so this is technically not something that should be in motion, right? It's not, this isn't fire. It shouldn't be animating. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we did on our guy. Go back to the freeze icon, and then let's just take out this stump. Okay, I was super quick and messy on that. This is actually ground here, and ground doesn't really animate either. So I think I got that. Hit play. Take off the mask. See that little bit of a slide? This is what I was talking about when the mask is too close. So we're going to go back to freeze. And I'm going to just dig this in a little bit further out. This is a really peculiar aspect of this program. You really do have to overdraw the masks, or you're going to get that weird kind of pixel bleed. So turn off, freeze, and let it play again. And now we have a good looking mask. Oh, this looks pretty solid. I've got like a slight frozen flare there, and that's going to drive me completely bonkers. Okay, so I'm going to hit pause, and then I'm going to see if I can pull this ember back a little bit without getting on the guy. There's actually a little one down here, but I don't think this one's recoverable. It's just too overlaid. So let's see how we did. Yep, I got him moving now. Let's get the mask off. There, much better. So from a distance, it's a lot harder to tell now that that's a little, half frozen ember on his helmet. You can just barely see it. And so I think this is cool. I'm happy with the movement that we have. This is, again, what my paths look like. You're completely free to design yours however you want. The last thing we're going to do, and I just love this effect, is we're going to leave this set of icons. So you may have forgotten how we got here, but the very far left bottom, there's a arrow in a little gray box. Hit that. And that's going to take us back to our original icons where we went into animate. And I'm not going to go into loop. That's not interesting for today. Not going to go into sky. That's not at all interesting. I like the idea of having a moving camera, an animating camera. I think that's a really cool addition to this kind of motion graphics thing. I just don't like the way they implemented it, and I don't like any of the options. So we're not going to go in there either. So we're going to go to this last one called overlay. And these are just super awesome. So I'm going to click the first one just to give you an idea of what's going on. So now we have bubbles. And it adds this whole layer, right, of movement. So we've got not only our foreground element of the guy, but we've got this, particle interaction in front of him and this interesting particle interaction behind him. And they happen to have one, these are all presets down here, and they happen to have one snow, more snow. They have this, which is just perfect for this image. I mean, it just completely sells it. And this is an opacity slider above the icons and below the guy. I'm leaving this at 100%. I totally love the effect. I think it looks absolutely awesome. And the very last thing that we're going to do is, again, click that far left arrow in the box to get us back to the basically main menu. And then we'll go back into animate and click that one icon next to the trash can that says speed. And I'm going to just push this up the tiniest bit. So we're going to do 3, I think. I think that's a convincing looking fire effect, and it's more consistent with the movement of the particles in the front, because that overlay, you know, the ember overlay thing that we chose, it doesn't have a speed control. So if the back doesn't match what it's doing, it kind of messes up the effect a little bit. So the very last thing that we're going to do is hit the export button, which is the very top right button that looks like the standard save kind of thing. A little up arrow in a bucket. Press that. And this is going to allow you to choose a length. I've been doing 20 seconds for all of mine. You can automatically post to all these different places, but if you just leave it as video, it's going to your camera roll, which is totally fine with me. And you hit export. All right, so that's it. So now this is saved as a 20-second movie, and we're done. So that's it. That wraps up the tutorial. We did it in under 30 minutes, which I think is pretty good, because you now have a really good understanding of this tool, and you should be able to be proficient in it, which is pretty good for 20 minutes. Hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you make some things with it. And, you know, what I'd really love to see from you is some other image. Pick something that you like. My advice is to pick something that has a very clear foreground, like an airplane over ground. That works really well. Guy next to explosion works really well. Water actually works well. I had a kind of an interesting surprise when I tried this, and was kind of thought the result was neat. So basically, if you want to see the mask here, I just masked the sky, and then all the rock and everything that's not moving, and then I just did motion arrows on the water, and got a pretty cool effect out of it. So I'd also encourage you to try to do this too, something that other than an explosion or something typical. And please tag me in whatever you create. I'd really love to see it. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This was a lot of fun. Cheers. Bye.
Heil.